Some races are dangerous because of speed, some because of competition.
This is about personal pride between Marc Marquez and Valentino Rossi.
And some because the margin for error is razor thin.
Oh, David. Oh, my God. Wow. Oh, my golly.
And then there's the Isle of Man TT, a race ran on public roads at insane speeds with no runoff, no forgiveness, and no safety net. This isn't a mistake in motorsport history. It's a tradition that survived everything, and it still scares the people who know it best. This is the world's most dangerous race. It's hard to imagine, but once upon a time, nowhere else would let this race happen. Back in the early 1900s, racing on the British mainland was in the process of being banned. It was labelled too dangerous, too disruptive. There were too many complaints about speed, noise, and the small matter of people occasionally flying past hedges at terrifyingly fast speeds. So the sport looked for a loophole, and it found one. A self-governing island in the Irish Sea, the Isle of Man. Public roads, no speed limits, a population that didn't just tolerate racing, it embraced it. From the very first TT in 1907, racing took place on roads that were temporarily closed for the event. Brave spectators stood behind rope barriers, only a few meters from the riders flying past. And the thing is, it worked. Not because it was safe or sensible, let's be real, it was far from it, but because it was honest. In 1911, the event moved from the smaller roads of St. John's Short Course to the circuit that's still used today, the Snaefell Mountain Course, a 37.73-mile lap stitched together from everyday roads that goes through a mix of towns, villages, and open countryside. One lap takes around 17 minutes at modern race pace, but one split-second mistake, that can end everything.
Oh, a horrible accident there.
This wasn't the kind of racing you watch from a grandstand. It was racing woven into everyday life. Shops closing for race week, locals timing their day around practice sessions, kids growing up knowing that once a year the world's fastest bikes would roar past their front garden. And that's what makes the TT totally nuts compared to everything else in motorsport. While other tracks threw in gravel traps and fancy barriers, the TT just said, nah, let's keep it brutal. The road stays the same, raw, unforgiving, and ready to mess you up. Riders don't learn it to look smooth or comfy, they learn it to not die. There's hundreds of corners, blind hills, and changes in the road that send bikes sideways like they're on a slip and slide. One second you're hammering it past hedges, and the next you're slamming on the brakes between people's houses. It's a big part of why the TT never turned into just another race on the calendar. It's a frickin' pilgrimage. They show up because winning this race is like bagging the summit of Mount Everest on two wheels. And it's not like the other races where everyone takes off together. Nah, at the TT, riders start every 10 seconds from the grandstand in a seeded order. Vets and the fast guys go first, and they're all chasing the fastest time across 4 to 6 average laps. No wheel-to-wheel fights, just you, the road, and the relentless clock. And that's been the case for over 100 years. So naturally off the back of that, the island started to build its own mythology. Lap records have become folklore. Corners have been named after riders. Families keep coming back, not as tourists, but as the keepers of a tradition way older and cooler than anything in mainstream motorsport. The event's grown. Classes have expanded, speeds have climbed, technology has entered the fray. From 1000cc superbikes pushing 200 miles per hour to super stocks, 600cc super sports, super twins, and even three-wheeled sidecars. Every class runs on the same unforgiving stretches of cement. They're different machines, but they have the same consequences. By the time the modern machines rolled in, the real question wasn't who's fastest. It became who's crazy enough to keep coming back. Because the Isle of Man TT isn't about who's riding, it's about what's waiting for them out there. And once you see that, the riders stop looking like heroes and start looking like absolute lunatics. The Snaefell Mountain Course is what separates this race from every other circuit on Earth, because when you really look at it, you realize it's not just long, it's straight up savage. It's not a track that lets you mess up and still get away with it. It's a public road that never signed up to be a racetrack. Take Bray Hill for example. Right after the start, it's flat out, downhill, suspension fully compressed as the bike hits a dip hard enough to bottom out at over 160 miles per hour. Riders talk about the front wheel going light, then heavy, then light again. It's the first reminder of the day that the course doesn't warm you up gently. It throws you straight in the deep end. Just like I will if you don't like the video, and subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate it. Back to it though. After Bray Hill, there's Belaf Bridge, a literal hump in the road that launches bikes into the air whether the rider wants it or not. Get it right and you're a hero. Get it wrong and you're landing sideways at speed with stone walls waiting on both sides. And that's the pattern here. The road keeps offering you moments where bravery alone isn't enough. You need precision, memory, restraint, and the discipline to not do what your instincts are screaming at you. The villages are even worse. Places like Kirkmichael and Glen Helen are lined with walls, fences, doorways, and telegraph poles. At the TT, they're part of the scenery. You're threading a superbike through someone's daily commute at 200 miles per hour while they're having a cup of tea on their doorstep a few feet to your left. Then you hit Solby Strait, one of the fastest stretches of road racing anywhere on Earth. Bikes pinned, engines screaming, riders tucked tighter than a puckered butthole. The speed isn't just impressive, it's uncomfortable. You know how quickly things would go wrong if anything breaks, twitches, or moves unexpectedly. And after all that, you climb. The mountain section is where the TT becomes something else entirely. Weather can change from corner to corner. Fog, wind, sudden drops in temperature affecting grip. You're flat out across open moorland with 0 reference points and nothing but memory keeping you online. What makes this course so deadly isn't any one corner, it's the whole damn thing. Riders have to memorize over 37 miles of pure madness and nail it at full speed, lap after lap, while their body's screaming at them to slow down. And the road doesn't care if you're exhausted or losing focus. It doesn't ease up. It doesn't give you a heads up. That's why crashes here don't look like racetrack crashes. There's no sliding through gravel traps or massive high sides coming out of corners. They've got a certain finality to them. But still, every year the riders line up and do it all over again. Not because they don't understand the danger, but because they understand it better than anyone else. And throughout history, there have been a few riders that have managed to stand head and shoulders above the rest. Because as brutal as this place is, it still produces kings. Not champions in the traditional sense, not riders who rack up points across neat little circuits with acres of runoffs. The Isle of Man TT crowns a different type of legend. One that's built on memory, on legacy, on nerve, and an unhealthy relationship with risk. And if you talk about the greatest TT riders of all time, there's one name you can't avoid: Joey Dunlop. In a race where just surviving the week is a win, Joey managed to bag a crazy 26 victories between 77 and 2000. But it wasn't just the number, it was how he did it. No cocky antics, no flashy celebrations. Joey didn't need any of that. He looked almost bored on the bike, like he was just out for a Sunday ride, effortlessly threading a missile between stone walls. His smoothness was unsettling, like he cracked a code no one else knew existed. And the thing is, he wasn't reckless. He was the complete opposite of reckless. Joey was precise, calculated, and cold-blooded, which, in a weird way, makes it all the more terrifying. Dunlop proved that the TT doesn't reward chaos. It rewards control, the ability to ride at the edge without ever showing it. After Joey, the mountain didn't stop churning out legends. It just switched things up a bit. Enter John McGuinness.
Here comes John McGuinness then. He just got the Glen Crutchery Road to take his 19th win. There, number 3 leads this race. But there goes John McGuinness. He is going to take his 20th TT win. 41st podium. If
Joey was calm mastery, McGuinness was controlled aggression. 23 TT wins, multiple lap records, and oh yeah, the first human to average 130 plus miles an hour around the mountain course. That sentence alone should make your palms sweat. McGuinness brought modern superbike violence to roads that were never meant for it. He rode on a bigger bike with more power and more speed, but somehow kept the same margins. What set him apart wasn't bravery. Loads of riders are brave. It was repetition. Doing things that look borderline suicidal on camera, but for him were just a Tuesday. The course wasn't something he wrote, it lived in his head. Honestly, if someone told me he could do a lap blindfolded, I wouldn't even question it. Then came the modern era monsters: Ian Hutchinson, Peter Hickman, and Michael Dunlop, the generation that dragged the TT into a whole new dimension.
The flag ready for John McGuinness to take his 3rd TT win.
he did. Flag goes out and he's done it. Hutchinson take his 4th TT win in a week.
Michael Dunlop leads this race now, his 9th win. This is impressive.
Hutchinson turning up in 2010 and casually winning 5 races in 1 week, like that's a normal thing humans do. Hickman's outright lap record, averaging over 130 miles per hour around public roads. And Michael Dunlop relentlessly adding to his uncle's legacy with wins across multiple classes.
Michael Dunlop comes to the finishing line, the 25-year-old from Ballymoney. He's been in 5 races this week. He's won 4.
And here's the part that messes with your head. Every single one of them knows exactly how dangerous this is. They've seen the crashes, like you will soon. They've lost friends. They've stood in silence on the grid more times than they can count. And yet they keep coming back. Because finishing here means you understand the road, survived the week, and earned respect in a place that gives nothing away. So naturally, with the stakes that high, there's the other side of the coin. Tragedy is only a heartbeat away. And it could be around the next corner. And that's the part nobody likes to talk about. But you can't tell the story of the Isle of Man TT without it, because when you strip away the records, the lap times, the legend, this race has always come with a cost. From the very beginning, the TT has been dangerous. It's baked into the DNA of the event. Public roads, solid objects at speeds that safety regulations simply can't keep up with. Over the decades, that's never changed. The risk hasn't faded. It's just been accepted.
This is Paul Orrin in a big duck cover at the bottom of Bray Hill and into the bank at the side of Bray Hill, and the marshal's ducking out of the way there.
Friends, teammates, family members, names that once echoed through the paddocks, now etched into memory instead. Every rider on that grid knows someone who didn't make it home. To a lot of people, the paddock filling up again every single year is baffling, especially when you look at how many lives have been lost. Every time tragedy strikes, the same question comes back louder than before. Should this race even exist? It's a fair question, an uncomfortable one, and one that never has a simple answer. Because yes, the TT has taken lives, but it's also shaped generations of riders who went in with their eyes wide open. Riders who understood exactly what they were signing up for and chose to do it anyway. That doesn't make the loss easier, but it does change how it's understood. The TT doesn't pretend to be safe. It doesn't hide its danger behind marketing slogans or sanitized images. It stands there exactly as it is and asks one brutal question. Do you still want to do this? At the Isle of Man TT, glory and grief exist inches apart, separated by mere moments, and the road doesn't care which one it gives to you. Since the TT began, more than 285 lives have been lost, 270 riders, more than 15 bystanders, and may they all rest in peace. What does the Isle of Man TT actually look like today? Because despite what people assume, this isn't a frozen relic from the past. The modern TT is one of the most tightly managed road racing events in the world, and that control starts long before race day. Strict road closure schedules, controlled access points, layered medical teams, and air ambulances are all in place. But the biggest filter happens on track. Riders don't just turn up and send it. Before they're allowed anywhere near race pace, competitors must complete mandatory newcomer laps, follow experienced riders around the course, and log controlled mileage. Qualification isn't just about speed, it's about demonstrating discipline, consistency, and awareness over the 37-mile lap. And even at the sharp end, the schedule itself has changed. Practice and race sessions are adjusted constantly around weather, visibility, and wind conditions, especially on the mountain section. If conditions aren't right, the TT doesn't force the issue. That alone tells you something important. This isn't recklessness, it's risk management in the most hostile environments racing can offer. The bikes have changed too. Modern TT machines are built with far more sophisticated suspension, braking, and electronics than ever before. Riders use traction control, engine braking strategies, and data analysis, not to make the course safe, but to make it more survivable. And it's not just the bikes. The gear riders wear has come a long way too. Airbag suits are standard, helmet technology has advanced, and yet, the basics haven't changed. The roads are still public, the walls haven't moved, the margins are still brutally thin. And that's why the modern TT has become even more selective. It's not just the TT, mind you. The Manx Grand Prix, its summer sister event, brings amateur riders onto the same mountain course. Lower profiles, lower speeds, but the same roads. And over the decades, it's added its own names to the list. Not everyone who wants to race here gets to. Not everyone who wants to start here finishes their career here. So this is where the TT sits today. It's not about mass appeal. It's not about global commercialization. It exists in a narrow, deliberate space between tradition and responsibility. A race that has changed how it runs without changing what it is. Because now, more than ever, everyone involved understands exactly what this place demands and exactly what it can take. The Isle of Man TT has always been defined by its road and measured by its cost. A race born on public streets, shaped by history, mastered by a few, and paid for in ways most sports never have to reckon with. In a world where motorsport keeps sanding down its sharp edges, the TT remains a reminder of what racing looks like when nothing is softened, nothing is hidden, and every rider lines up knowing exactly what is at stake. The TT drives the island's economy, pulls in thousands of applications from riders all over the world, and still only lets a fraction through. Proof that the pool hasn't faded, even though the risk hasn't either. That's why it still exists. That's why it still scares people, and that's why it will always stand alone. If you want to check out some of the worst MotoGP crashes in history, click here. And as always, thank you for watching.